Live from the Rob Christensen Radio Network Satellite Studio, it's Jim and Rob Overanalyze the Movies. Well, hello everybody, and welcome to Jim and Rob Overanalyze Movies, the movie podcast where we love to talk about movies as much as we love watching them, and we're assuming because you're here, you do too. Before we get started, got a couple of housekeeping bits. And so first of all, I want to shamelessly plug my latest Friday film 5-ish. There's a link in the description, in the YouTube description. And I will get one up here after the show is reloaded as a regular video. So yeah, check it out and let me know what you think in the comments below that video. Right now I'm looking at Anita Hill's Hollywood Commission. I have less than positive things to say from a left-wing hot take perspective. And I speculate on who the Hawkeye Ronin character in the MCU will vote for in like a week and a half. Not even a week and a half, really, eh? Jeez, it's like 8-9 days. I'm Canadian and I'm excited and nervous. What's with that? All right. Now that we've done that, this movie today, we are looking at Primary Colors as part of Jim and I's kind of ramp up to the U.S. presidential election. It's a film, a clef, if you're fancy, but a behind the scenes look, a thinly disguised behind the scenes look at the Clinton primary campaign in 91 to 92 before he went on to become President Clinton. But at the time he was referred to as Governor Clinton. And this one, like I said, it's about a Governor Stanton from a southern state that, quote, no one has ever heard of, close quote. It's I'm gonna throw up the not that, sorry, different show. But yeah, let's take a look at the trailer. Muted my mic. Hello. Well, there you go. There was the trailer. And yes, welcome, Richard and Katie. Richard, you're right. I am looking good. Anyway, my co-host Jim, he had messaged me while we were in our intro. He is running a touch late. His computer's frozen, so while he works out his technical issues, I'm going to dive in on some of the items regarding this movie and maybe give you my thoughts initially. First of all, from 1998. We're kind of taking a look at how it and of course you are in the spoiler zone, so keep that in mind. And we've got it was directed by Mike Nichols, written by his wife and longtime collaborator Elaine May. Based on the book Primary Colors by, when it was released in, I want to say 94 or maybe 96. When it was released, it was actually Primary Colors by Anonymous. Obviously somebody who had some inside views both into the media take on this and inside views on the campaign. So in the end, it came out, it was a writer named Joe Klein. And I do want to tell you, if you're interested in the book, there is an affiliate link in the description. Feel free to use it. Hey, before I go too far, it looks like my colleague Jim has made it. So let's bring him online. It looks like his internet is very weak, but I'm sure it'll only get stronger as his takes get stronger. Welcome to, if I ever ran for office, my speechwriter, Mr. Jim Cheboyko.
Hey there, Corn Pop. What a load of malarkey. Sorry. Did those show up?
Say that again.
Oh, it was such a great... Said, hi there, Corn Pop. What a load of malarkey. There's 2 Joe Biden, 1, 2. Excellent references. Do these are American flag aviators? Do they show up?
You can kind of see the. Well, here, let's get you full on. They totally show up, or at least to me. And your internet stream is now coming in loud and clear, Jim.
Is it okay? Yeah, it was. I was setting up. I had plenty of time, and then I got the Windows wheel, the blue wheel of death there, and not very happy with that. But anyway, I'm here now.
It happens. It's all good.
There we go. Politics and something going wrong? Who'd have thunk it?
Absolutely.
I'm just going to move a little bit over here.
Yeah.
Okay, there we go.
So,
hi, folks.
What are your thoughts, Jim? What give us your first kind of overview of what you thought the movie, how the movie did?
Yeah,
how it held up or not.
It's kind of I was asking my wife just now if we'd seen it in the theater or if we'd rented it one night from one of those old stores like Blockbuster or Rogers. But I at any point, I think we saw it at the end of the 90s. And like a lot of the Trump stuff that's coming out, the Comey rule, et cetera, this was... still, Bill was still in office when this came out. So
yeah, it was like 94 or 96, right?
98.
The movie came out in 98, but the book came out in 94, 96.
And he was first elected in 92 and to 2000 or the handover being 2001. Anyway, so I there's some things I distinctly remember. I remembered specific scenes like our like Libby and Henry driving up to his condo just at the end there. I distinctly remember that. But I had forgotten some of the other things too. I liked it. I thought it there was a little bit of, it could have been, the tempo could have been a little bit quicker, I think, in the middle. But it was played really weird. The tone was really played weirdly. For instance, I think at the end, it's almost kind of sinister how Jack gets Henry back on board. He's sort of the last seduction of the movie, and it's almost like a sort of a Stepford Wives kind of thing where he's drawn in. I mean, we can talk about this later.
I couldn't disagree more, actually, but continue.
Yeah.
Like I've just well
not mindlessly, but
no, I'm not. I'm just like that tone. that tone thing. But continue. Like I want to hear.
It's done with this sort of like it's a little bit of uplift at the end of the movie, but somebody lost their lives, and Henry was sort of charmed back into the fold, like he was able to be talked back into it. Anyway, so I'm not saying that the tonal things are bad or wrong. It was a choice. I mean, these guys, Nichols and May, they know what they're doing. But I think it was
they ain't rookies.
The sort of the undercurrent of it's a little trickier than I think the what shows up on the screen. Anyway, I think there is a little bit of undercurrent here, a little bit of a little bit of darkness. But like I said, we can talk about that later. I enjoyed it, and it seems different though, and it seems like it's from another time. Although they do talk about things like catch and kill and the shaming of the media, it does feel like it belonged maybe last generation of politicians. So,
well, what you almost not even just the last generation of politicians, the last generation of. I mean, we remember that time. We were voters then, not American voters, but voters politically. We had the franchise. This isn't like we were children or anything.
Yeah.
I am kind of wondering how you took the difference in the way the gender politics, especially with Clinton, and maybe I'll give you my take, and then but I want to hear yours. Sure. One of the things I was like. One of the few things was like, oh yeah, we would look at that differently, was the relationship. Like, I mean, even now, most people think of Clinton more as a dog than a dog and a womanizer, but not I don't think a lot of people really still kind of put him in the category of that's a bad man. Yeah. Like we would put Trump or any of these, Weinstein or anything, and not completely unfairly. I mean, I think the only serious allegation, there's a couple of many sexual, sexual liaisons he had, many. There was only two. One's too many, perhaps. But there was one or two one that came recently, one that was of the time. Paula. Oh, what the heck was that one?
Jones?
Yes, Paula Jones. And then there was a woman recently who came out and said, "Yeah, he assaulted me." Not assaulted, harassed. Everyone else, it was, no, he seduced them. And, and we don't have to, I don't want to, kind of argue the point one way or another now. But definitely in the 90s, he was just a womanizer. In a way, he was too charming. Like, there was a lot of people, especially when the Monica Lewinsky scandal broke, very much painting him as, it's like any handsome, charming, popular man. Women are going to want to sleep with him. And whereas the story now, you would have to be incredibly deep on the Republican right for you to survive that. You would not, there's that congresswoman who, all reports are consensual relation. Well, no, I think
Hill?
Yeah, and gone. You got to resign. You got to resign today. What did she do? She got sworn in, and then she moved back to California.
Yeah.
So no way would a sitting president survive a Lewinsky-esque. We just look at that stuff differently. We wouldn't have thought it as a private matter, which all polling. This is one of the reasons his popularity kept on rising. Even Republicans were it's between him and his wife. Whereas now we'd be like, no, he was screwing the most junior person he could find in his office. that is definitely our business.
Yeah.
Oh, and heck, yeah, him and his wife also have. You know, like, what happens in their marriage, that's not our business. But, oh, God, what he did with staff, you know, and that was, but it was also even in the campaign office where they kind of acknowledged it was the mid-90s. They acknowledged that if the muffin Jennifer, I believe that's her name, played by Stacey Edwards, if she wasn't cool, they could have been sued for sexual harassment.
Oh, yeah.
Which is, you know, his concern when somebody literally shows her his wang.
Yeah.
You know, and yeah, like, I mean, it's wasn't that long ago where it's like, oh yeah, we would and hey, there's another person whose career is bye-bye.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, exactly.
You know, unless you're well, mind you though, Jeffrey Toobin, you know,
timely.
well, they can say, yeah, yet another movie, timely in ways we did not expect, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So
No,
I don't
no.
know, what was your take on the gender stuff? Like, did you watch this again with your wife? Was Carlin?
No,
watching it with you?
no, she. I just watched it today, actually. Yeah, I mean, part of it is you know who's, and as bad as this is to say, it's almost like whose side are you on? You know, you can forgive somebody that you root for, right? And then you can say, oh, boys being boys, what a dog, that kind of thing. And I didn't.
Which is
like,
a big part of this movie, I think.
Yeah.
Like, indirectly.
Well, and that's
unintended.
These days, you know, you have to wonder how bad has it been in the past. Stuff we didn't know about, you know. I kind of, it's a little
as wild as our imaginations are, Jim, I suspect it was worse.
Yeah, I think you're probably right there, but yeah, I mean, it's hard to generalize about all these things because there's been so many instances and there's been so many people and there's been so many rumors and that kind of thing, but
don't mind me, I'm just changing my headphone while we're chatting.
Just a lot of people overstepping their bounds and that sort of thing. Well, all these euphemisms.
Let's call it sexual assault.
There was
harassment in the workplace.
Yeah, there was a skit on SNL a couple of years ago when the Aziz and Ansari stuff came out, and there were a bunch of couples sitting around a table, and every time one of them broached it, they sort of went, and they didn't know. They just sort of passed the hot potato along.
Yeah.
You know, well, they were on a date, but forget it. You know, so they didn't know how to talk about it. But yeah, it does seem like it's from a different time. The movie too sort of wants to, you know, spends a little bit of time. I think it was pointed out when it first came out, the donut shop scene where he's having a heart-to-heart with the poor guy at the counter who makes $5.25 an hour,
Mr. Scanlon.
Yeah, and so that's, I mean, it sort of it doesn't forgive him, and I while I was watching it, I was thinking, is this a statement like, oh, he's a complicated guy, or with these great powers of empathy come, I don't know, a super libido? You know, like I want, like, oh, people are complicated, or it's two sides of the same coin, or I sort of wasn't entirely sure what they were getting at, but yeah, I mean, it's pretty sinister stuff for him to sleep with a teenager, and that was treated almost like it wasn't. Well, it was a big deal, but it wasn't shown as sort of monstrously selfish as it was. What's that?
It wasn't, dear God.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
She's a child.
It just like, you went and did this. You know. So
yeah,
so
not like it wasn't a Fred Flintstone, when are you gonna
You scheduled the water buffalo meeting on the same night you were supposed to have dinner with Wilma.
Like, it didn't handle it that way, but at the same time, it didn't handle it in a way we would handle it now. Thinking of Roy Moore in Kentucky, where it's like you were cruising after teenagers.
No, I wasn't.
You know, her mother was fine with it. I was helping them out. You know, like, yeah, we look at it differently. Although you're absolutely right, Jim, because he's a sympathetic character in this. And yeah, back in the 90s, like if you were center to the left, like I remember it. Okay, if memory serves, you know, we manufacture these things as much as we remember them. But if memory serves, you know, women here in Canada were saying, "Can you believe he's getting impeached over a blowjob?" You know, and it's like, and we're all like, "Yeah, that's crazy, isn't it?" Now it's like, can you believe he's harassed all these? Now, meanwhile, you know, they play these tapes of these Republicans being total hypocrites, but I don't know if it'd be any different. Like, or actually you could reverse all these tapes. You know, a lot of people, men and women in the 90s were, if you were center to left, you were defending Clinton, you're making all kinds of excuses. Yeah. She was like, Melanie Lewinsky, when she was talked about, it was never in flattering terms.
No.
You know, even though now, like, look, think about it. She was 23 years old. She was just, and not just like to mean it pejoratively, but she was just an intern. Yeah. What the fuck, man? Like,
yeah, and so, she seems to be fairly well adjusted now. I mean, if you follow her on Twitter, she's very funny about it, and seems to have weathered, you know, the storm. I don't know tons about it. Maybe she hasn't, but what's that?
She's done some TED Talks.
Yeah,
Like, it's always, it is good that she hasn't turned into or remained a joke. Like, I think of another person who did not weather, and okay, this is, it's a terrible comparison, but it's the best one I can come up with. I'm thinking, figure skater.
Tonya Harding.
Where, now mind you, where she falls on the good side, you know, I don't think one of the things no one kind of ascribed to Monica Lewinsky, which I think is part of a class thing. At best, she was a crazy, at worst, she was being thought of as a crazy ditz. She didn't have the Linda Tripp thing where she was literally like a Machiavellian manipulating everyone so she could have a book deal or whatever. And I'm not saying, like I said, that was the best of the worst. Whereas Tonya Harding, you know, was, well, you must have been in on it. You know, like, I mean, and so she really, and she was already coming from behind because she's, I do think of her as more of a working class tragedy. Whereas Monica Lewinsky was, you know, you don't get to be intern unless you're connected. Mm-hmm. And her folks were hitters in, you know, affluent Democratic donors in California. She came from the upper class.
Well, she was also staying at at a place that I stayed in DC, the old Watergate complex. At that point, I think it was an apartment for her. I mean, I stayed in a hotel, but just for fun, and it's actually kind of a super cool place.
Yeah,
but
not cheap, I'm sure.
It was okay.
No, I mean as an apartment.
Oh yes, yeah. I thought you were asking about like. No, I think it was a fair price.
I was staying in an apartment.
Hotels.com, you know, but...
Jim, we will not refer to it again unless there's an affiliate link in the description below.
Brought to you by Hotels.com. Whatever happened to the Travago guy? Anyway, you know, so she talks about it very eloquently now. And, well, as you said, she does TED Talks. Another one is another thing to look at in terms of how it's viewed all these years later. There's a 4-part documentary, or is it 5? I think it's 4 on Lorena Bobbitt on Amazon Prime, and that's kind of interesting too. And there's always you know, the sort of the punchlines at the start and then the story behind it. and then you realize that it's a lot deeper than you had initially thought it was. So, but yeah, I mean, has it changed much? I don't know. I mean, the guy in the White House now, he's certainly not a gentleman. So,
well,
and even Biden's got some charges against him. I mean, not charges. People out there saying things, but
one person out there saying things.
But who knows?
Yeah,
right?
I just think, not
that I believe
I guess that is the question. Well, you know what? So that's maybe the question for us, and for people in the chat, or you're watching this after and you're, I'm thinking of Shashank or, Ahmed, you're watching this a little later. Yeah. Do we actually think it's actually changed? Mm-hmm. I think I can argue it has. Has it changed enough? No. It doesn't take a middle-aged white guy to catch that play to kind of figure this isn't it's not as good as it could be. That said, I think it's better if only because now people are you know what, I don't think Al Franken should have lost his gig. We could get into that. Well, maybe we shouldn't. That's for another one. When Al Franken makes a movie that we can then tie in or something. But the vast majority of these people who, suffered consequences, you can't say, oh, Harvey, you got screwed.
Yeah.
No. So I think it has changed. The fact that it's always a subject, the fact that, like, Jim, you and I, let's say magically we were doing this back in the 90s. I don't think I'd be talking about the Bechdel test. I don't think I knew what it was in 1998, maybe 98, kind of as a passing curiosity. I don't think that definitely the Reframe Project wouldn't be around, like a kind of grid to review production. No. I don't think these things would have been around. So I don't think we would have been talking about it as regularly. Like we always bring it up now in our reviews, in our analysis. Okay, what do we, and that you and I, two white men, are uncomfortable about talking about it, and we kind of, that's a good thing too. I think that we're
who's uncomfortable. I'm not uncomfortable.
Speaking of which, for those folks, I didn't do my my intellectual, or let's say the ideological ingredients list. You can't say this thing passes the Bechdel test. So no, don't think. Well, it may retroactively get a reframe stamp of approval, but I'd have to actually take a bit deeper of a dive. But there were so many not strong women, like, oh, she's a strong woman, but strong women characters in the sense that they were active players in the story and never the reward for anyone. Like, that was like such a big part of this film without it being obvious, overt, or look at that strong woman character, so it might, and with Elaine May writing it, like, they've got enough above the line talent, it may actually qualify for a reframe stamp. What else? Is it class conscious? A little bit. A little, the Scanlon character and the Krispy Kreme, that they're they're at least talking about the poor and the working class. Would you say, though, that is it class conscious, or is there a good class analysis? No, but I'll get into more of that later. There's a couple of key scenes there for me where I was like, that's important. like right there, that speaks to something that's a lot bigger than the movie. And it was all not quite a throwaway scene, but it could have been. Richard, one comment here is interesting that Gary Hart went down in those days, but Clinton didn't. Today, many go down, but Trump didn't. I think, Richard, that's a great point, Richard.
Yeah,
I think here, one of the things, I'll finish that. Gary Hart in part went down, and it's referred to in the movie. Gary Hart went down because he said, "Catch me." He's basically challenging the media to catch him. And so they went, "You bet we will." He did not answer when he was asked those hard questions. He blew it off and said, "Yeah, if you got proof, show me. All right, we'll go get some." So that's what got him, that he was arrogant about it. And then in the movie they say, well, we know the rules now. So, you know, like as they were hilariously trying to figure out how they're going to broach this subject with, is it going to be Susan, the Hillary Clinton, stand-in, or is it going to be the governor? How they're freaking, well, who do we talk to? Susan, which is hilarious. But they did. They like the Billy Bob Thornton's character, explicitly refers to the Garrett, say, hey, we know the rules now, so we're not going to do that. It isn't going to work that way. We are going to deal. I thought that was fascinating. But here's something else that Richard is chiming in on. Everything has changed. A lot has changed for sure. But one big difference is social media in existence today, but not then. So Richard, let's go back to, Jim, let's go back to Richard's first comment here.
Sure.
Interesting that Gary Hart went down in those days, but Clinton didn't. Today, many go down, but Trump didn't. And you got a point there. Like, even Clinton was impeached. Trump was impeached. The Senate, controlled by one party or the other, they were like, well, it's not that big a deal. It's your guy, so you defend your guy.
Exactly.
What were you going to say, though, when...
Well, I was just going to say that's what sort of that is what makes it hard to sort of, maybe you shouldn't generalize with things like this, but I mean, just even looking back, Gary Hart got lost his, he was the front runner. The title of the movie suggests. And there were rumors about everyone. I mean, it came out after the fact that George H.W. Bush was handsy, but that might have been a senility thing. So I didn't really read up too much on that. Yet, so you sort of expect a certain progression, where Obama was a charismatic guy, and maybe he was a sex symbol to some, but there was sort of they really played up the relationship between him and Michelle. He was seen, I think, as kind of, unless I'm totally off base, kind of chaste in a way, or righteous. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't. He didn't ever seem kind of like finger gun kind of on the make.
Well, he was. I'm gonna make in my experience, Jim, having worked with a lot of police now, police, firefighters, these folks seem to fit into one of two categories. We might maybe be able to make some horrible generalizations about elected officials too, but male police. I don't have a large enough sample with but male police. There seems to be the mate for life type of cop, and I met so many cops who are like, no, it's just my high school sweetheart, and they hang out together. They have all these hobbies they do together. It's like, I don't care what anyone says about policeman X or policeman Y. Where are they going to get the time to screw around?
Yeah.
Because they're busy. They're too busy hanging out with their spouse. And same with firefighters. And then there is no middle ground. There is the dog forever, you know. And yeah, I think, and if we could make a similar reference to elected officials, and part of it is we're talking about very high status positions where people start acting like maniacs around them. They behave differently. You know, there's almost a smaller religious experience. So let's go to, so they get all this attention, how they handle it. It kind of is a big tell about who they are. But yeah, I think Obama's just the mate for life kind of guy.
Yeah, that's
like he's just, that's who he is. It doesn't mean that him and Michelle have the perfect relationship, or Michelle. I'm referring to these people like they're my friends, like I know them, like we know them, you know, Michelle. But yeah, he could very well just fall in that category. No, it's like, you know, like all reports are, when he wasn't doing politics, he was with his family. You know, whereas, you know, Bill's a dog, you know.
Yeah.
If he's not sleeping around now,
and W,
it's maybe because he can't, you know, like just because he's just, I don't mean, not trying to, you know what, this is just bad. I'm going to shut up now.
Okay.
But you're going to say, and
so no, well, with Obama, there was never that sort of louche quality, or, you never got that sense, but just, you know, if you're sort of taking a look at this over time, it's really hard to sort of nail down any progression, because, you know, there's progression and regression, right? And you know, I maybe there's an argument to why there's a couple of 70-year-olds that are running for president right now, is because they're seen as less of a threat that way, even though in the past, whatever. But it's sort of hard to.
Now they're like their old men.
Yeah,
you know.
Yeah.
What did you think, Jim? Before we.
Listen, I like movies. Listen,
Richard, next week's guest star is Barack and Michelle. And what would the movie be in that case? Malcolm X. Malcolm X.
I'd like to take a look at The Five Bloods.
Again.
But
I'm not sure I agree with you. But I want to probe this. I want to probe this. Did you ever watch the Seinfeld's coffee cars thing?
I've seen a
Comedians
few
in cars
episodes.
giving coffee.
Yeah.
But they did do one with Obama.
Yeah,
And it was interesting. It was interesting. There was a moment. And he takes him on, and he's treating him like one of his, you know, he was a former university professor. It's like, you know, Jerry, I want to probe this a little. I want to probe this. And he wants to dig into something, eh?
Yeah.
And I can imagine it's like, oh, working for this guy would be hard, but great.
Yeah.
Because he'd ask you good questions.
Yeah.
You know, woe betide you giving a lazy, slack answer.
Mm-hmm. Know your stuff.
I want to probe this. It's like, oh, for the love of God, please don't. It's
I'm
not even a
tired.
sex reference. Yeah. I gotta go. Where the hell were we? Oh, yeah, the movie. You know what? We can circle back to this, but I'm also curious, Jim, as I'm probably playing the music a little too loud. Let's turn it down a touch. What did you tell us about the music? Like, I mean, I certainly noticed it. You know, some of the pop songs, and you know, but the best I could say about the soundtrack is, well, you know what? It's probably good because when I noticed it was when I was supposed to.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But otherwise I didn't notice it, and that's a compliment.
I think
But
Ry
what did you
Cooder
think?
was involved with the score, maybe, or he was some sort of. I think Ry Cooder might have been
Who's
in the.
that?
Oh, Ry Cooder, sort of a not really country and western, almost like a T-Bone Burnett type of producer, guitar player. yeah, I'm gonna have to. I don't want to go off the top of my head.
Found his magic in the studio.
Yeah, he's one of those guys that's been around forever, and but yeah, I mean,
multi-gazillionaire on like a penny a play. You know?
Yeah, well, yeah, from back in when you could make money from music, but you know, a lot of it was the sociology of music, right? It was a lot of the Southern songs, and the one that he was singing to Jack was singing to Henry as they were walking down the
plantation, a literal plantation land.
Yeah. And there were a few other. I was going to say, actually, there was it was kind of a neat scene when Kathy Bates's character, I'll look it up in a sec, was making Henry sing along. They were in the truck, and it was obviously a song he didn't know, and so he was sort of faking his way. There was just sort of an external shot of the truck and that kind of thing. But there was also a dancing scene, which is some of the whitest dancing I've ever seen. It was just right outside their mansion, and I don't know what John Travolta was even doing. The
governor's mansion.
Oh my gosh!
Yeah, this thing.
It was
drunk uncle at dance.
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. And it wasn't even the shopping cart.
Drunk uncle at social. That's, I think, what you called it.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, the shopping cart? What the heck is that?
And there was this sort of this pan across all this very white dancing. It was kind of crazy. But yeah, you know, I mean, it might have played a more important role for Americans, because some of those songs, it's almost like when you do an American crossword and you don't know all the clues because they're kind of American references, but a lot of them were sort of Deep South references and that sort of thing. So yeah, I mean, they tried at the start, you know, that kind of the what is it, herald, is that what you call it, the sort of the big trumpety music, you know, at the start and as it sort of ended, and that was, you know, it's got to sound presidential, but if it's not in if it's not in the public domain, then they probably can't use it. So they have to come up with something that always sort of fascinates me. They have to come up with something that sounds like it could be part of a presidential fanfare. You know, it's a little bit of a thing. So they did that fairly well. But yeah, I didn't really particularly notice it. There was a couple of shots that I did know. I mean, for me, you know, I guess my takeaway for the first time was the donut shop, you know, when they had that great, almost like that
Krispy Kreme. That was like, yeah. Did I ever follow?
No, I just said, you know, you follow these kind of people on Instagram, or there's actually a guy on Twitter that I follow that I guess he's got some sort of night job, and all he does is take pictures of downtown Sydney at night, like, and they're just a place where we stayed, like in some of the neighborhoods that we stayed in, and they're amazing shots that I sort of want to look up how to take better night shots. But it was so lovingly lit with that ugly green neon, and there was a real slow zoom, and that was a very, I mean, it came about an hour in, I think, and it was a kind of a distinctive sequence.
Yeah, but heaven forbid, I'm desperate now to find that shot. Oh wait, I think here, and it nice slow zoom. Just a sec, Jim. I'm gonna bring it up on screen. I pulled it from a YouTube thing. There we go.
Yeah,
and that slow zoom in.
Yeah,
it was like out of every frame of painting.
Oh yeah,
you know, like it was like, no, I want my Krispy Kreme shot. I'm gonna have, you know, Mike Nichols. We have to have the Krispy Kreme shot.
Yeah. Well, and it looks like you know, sort of a reverse or a bizarro Ansel Adams almost. You know, it's not wilderness, but the sort of the canyons of the city. You know, it's a very very lovingly shot anyway, and then it leads to like this significant thing where, you know, you get a little bit of a key into who Jack is, and Henry is able to witness it. You know, he peels himself away from the meeting going nowhere, and he sort of creeps down to join him.
But here's an interesting comment from Richard, and it's a great comment. I'm not well, I'll read it to you. and then we can comment on it. Okay, Richard says in the YouTube chat, role of Henry. Oh, and by the way, we do have a viewer on. I'm also simulcasting to Twitch. Let me give that a shot. And apparently somebody's watching it on Twitch. So whoever you are, feel free to chime in on the chat. I can get it and I can put it on screen so that we can all cross-platform interact on this. So let's do that. Okay, so Richard says, role of Henry, played by Adrian Lester, who's actually from England. It's a child of Jamaican and African immigrant parents. Working class Leicester, or working class England.
And not Duley Hill, as I said last week.
Birmingham. Birmingham.
That's pretty working class.
Yeah. And then married this woman who also an actor, immigrant. I can't remember. It's a Indian name. And also the child of immigrants, but that upper middle class, born to doctors,
oh my gosh.
Indians who came to England. They may have came as doctors, in one of these times when, we're not educating enough doctors of our own. Let's reach into the developing world and take their qualified people for us. It's like we do so much with the affluent North reaching into the global South and taking. Anyway, so his job was just to represent the viewer by being in every scene, but not ever doing much. I'm going to agree with you to a bit. He is the every person, but I think he does have more agency, but he is, everyone's got to kind of make some of those choices, and he always makes, he could say he makes a complicated choice, but what do you think, Jim?
I'm gonna
leave the comment up because this is it really goes to the heart of the film, I think, because it is about Henry. The movie's about Henry. It's not actually. He is the prime character. He's the one with the character arc. And
I think that's Jack needs Governor Stanton needs a sounding board almost, or he needs people, right? He needs people around him. He needs a certain kind of person around him, and I think Henry fills that role. Does he doesn't do a lot because he's it's that old thing where you drag someone in, somebody new to the situation, say, and I brought this up before, probably Noah Wiley in ER, and it's okay, here you go, here's your it's your first day, kid, and then everything goes from there. There's a line that he said earlier on, do I have time for a phone call? And it sort of almost reminded me like of a jailhouse thing, like, do I get my one call? Like they just sort of
I just
drag
want
him
a phone call.
Yeah, just drag him along on this thing. So I mean, he reacts, right, and he's
swept along, but at no time does he ever say, okay, enough's enough, I'm making my fucking phone.
I gotta
call my goddamn girlfriend.
And
he doesn't even say, but I think that's part of it, is he wants to be seduced. He's losing faith.
Yes. With the previous guy that he supported, and
even in the system, I think,
I'm just gonna work for. He says at the very end, he goes, I don't know, I'll work for a smaller thing, voter registration. Oh, Henry.
And it was one of my favorite, that end scene. There's a few scenes I just love in this movie.
Yeah.
And if we compare it to last week, where everyone, although they make terrible mistakes, and everyone's, mistakes were made, why didn't we do this? The last movie, Game Change, everyone exudes such a air of competence. And that they're all professionals. Whereas this one, it's like, no, this is how it really works. Yeah. Somebody's burnt out, or they won, and all of a sudden they're a pricey one who only works for other people who are guaranteed to win. So they maintain their winning streak, right?
Yeah.
Whereas this guy, he's ready to move up. He has status that these people want. He is a Southern governor. To have a black man a child or a grandson of a human or a civil rights hero,
Yeah.
at a high level, like managing the ground game.
Yeah.
That's a huge get for the campaign. So you can see why they want him, but he wants something. Yeah, he wants to feel like he's making a difference. But he's also maybe like, no, I'm ready to start having more influence.
Yeah.
I
mean, he's along for the ride in terms of what he does. He does represent the viewer. I might argue that he doesn't ever do much. Like, he's sort of like he's this sort of string of tension through the whole thing. Like, he's the one that sort of adds the tension, right? Because everything sort of, he's like an elastic band in all the scenes, right? Everything's going to sort of bounce off him because you can sort of see his gears turning, or his like a subtle horrified look in his face, or like a what, his reaction. I mean, he reacts a lot. Does he do stuff? Yeah, he's
certainly not driving the plot.
Yes,
even
he's
though
not
it is
an
about
activator.
him.
He's sort of along for the ride. And at the very end, when he could make a choice whether or not to like just break with this group of people or continue on with the being swept away, he goes with the being swept away, right?
Yeah.
And he sort of, which I say, if you could add sinister music. I'm not saying it's completely a dark choice.
Here's the thing.
Hold on. Yeah, I'm not saying it's a completely dark choice. I'm saying you could have played it another way.
Yeah.
In that he was sucked in, like all the rest, like the teenage girl, like the hairdresser, everything else. But so he's ultimately the last guy that's seduced by the governor.
But at the same time, like, it was one of the reasons, like, that ending scene was a kindler, gentler. There was a pretty solid scene in, of all things, I am now going to refer to The Devil Wears Prada.
Oh my gosh.
Killer scene where the, can't remember the character's name, but played by, for crying out loud, the woman's won an Oscar, and I cannot...
Streep, Hathaway, Blunt.
Hathaway, thank you.
Okay.
So Streep does this killer takedown of the Hathaway's character, because and basically says, listen, it might be just this to you, but there's whole industries based on what we're doing here. Quit being such a snob, and it really is a great scene. And you can disagree with the opinion, but you can't. It's just a really solid scene, and it kind of summarizes one of the sub-themes, I think, of that movie. The scene, and again, there's just some great scenes. Does it add up to an amazing movie? No, but it had some great scenes. And that last scene, as they're walking down, and he really is saying it. Like, I agreed with Stanton. That information had to come out. And the sooner it came out before it tanked that party, the better.
That's an interesting point,
worse, too. Yeah, it's even worse. Let's say, and you could argue that's exactly what happens once the guy you've chosen gets too far down the line. Everyone's stuck with them anyway.
Yeah.
Trump, of course, they weren't ever going to impeach. Like, they were going to impeach him, but they were never going to convict him, because all those Republicans are what? This is our guy. We sink our boat without a lifeboat around.
Yeah.
That's not going to happen. Just as they weren't going to sink the democratically controlled Senate, was not going to sink Clinton. Even though a lot of them, even then, the Republicans played the politics wrong, because there was a lot of Democrats who would have been, well, let's censure him. Let's shame him, which probably would have really hurt Clinton's, polling numbers. He would not have he would not have had the influence in his second half that he did if they had censured him, because that would have been a unified judgment of the man and his behavior. But in that scene where he is, like, I mean, he says, listen, I'm doing this for Libby, because he really does. The character does have a heart.
Oh, yeah.
He's like, yeah, I'm doing this for Libby. But yeah, I would have leaked it and I would have felt bad, but I would have been right. And he would have been right.
Yes,
This is a test. It's like, well, Libby's got mental health issues. Like, this is not somebody, oh, she will set the bar, because she set the bar too high for herself. Henry is, yes, he was seduced, but I think at the end of the movie, there's something more in that whole interaction. It's not the final seduction. This is where Stanton is laying it all out. It's like, here, I need you. I want you to be part of this. But he's, I think half of what he's coming out of his mouth isn't just bullshit to charm him. And there, Henry is making the choice. You're right. I like the rubber band analogy. But in that last scene, and what we see in the very last scene, the post that, is that he made a choice. He's like, yeah, you know what? Politics is compromise. And to bring a personal experience from my life, like, nothing as extreme as that. I mean, this is a terrible...
Tell me more.
Well, I've already said, yeah, I think my vote for the current leader of the federal party was terrible. I was fortunate enough, not that I'm some player or anything, but I was fortunate enough to be a voting delegate for Wab Kinew in his leadership run. At the same time, I got to admit, I was like, kind of, well, he's a lot better than the alternative. That was my biggest concern as a party member at the time, was like, yeah, no, hey, you've had a great run, but you would be awful as the leader. If Wab is what we got, then Wab is what I'm going to vote for. But I'm like, am I doing the right thing here? Especially when a lot of what I would call the apparatchik class were like, well, when do people get forgiven? And I'm like, you're one of the least forgiving pricks I've ever met. What, now all of a sudden we're forgiving people? What job have you lined up, young man? Yeah. But I was concerned about it, but obviously not so concerned. But I did. I was a delegate, and yes, I can still say I was proud of it. I can also say, God, I'm relieved. He's turned out to be a great, from my perspective, as a pretty lazy, occasionally active member of the Manitoba New Democratic Party. He's worked out real well, and you're not hearing awful stories, and you're not like, but yeah, I think with the Henry characters at the end, instead of being swept along and conned and manipulated, Stanton lays it all out, and Henry makes a call, and he says, you know what? Yeah, what am I going to do? Register so they can vote for the Republicans?
Yeah.
And that I think is a reasonable choice. There's other movies that I think far more show the corruption, small c corruption of the Democratic Party, that are captured in little moments. But at that moment, that kind of being one of the big messages, it's like, even he said it to his ex-girlfriend at one time. It's like, I'd rather vote for the liar who cares about these people than, some jerk who's just going to shit on everyone,
Yeah, yeah.
So, and I think that's the way that's the way I read that scene.
Yeah.
But you had mentioned tone, Jim, and I don't think it was a tone choice. I think it was actually, and maybe kind of like the Krispy Kreme, it was the most stylized part of the whole movie, was when him and Libby go to Miami. And I was like, this is the first, because, in my expectations, I really thought it was going to be a lot of low-key comedy lighting, brightly, and it was. In every scene, in all the scenes, except when they went to Miami, and it almost goes film noir. You got a lot of high contrast, a lot of gauzy lighting, like a lot of, they're in basically the woods somewhere in the South, and I didn't hear one mosquito. There was no damp feel, nothing. But when they went to Miami, all of a sudden it was like a hot, but a weird dry hot. And it just had atmosphere and contrast, and it was like we were in a film noir. And I think that was a conscious choice to kind of go, okay, this is the dark side of politics, and they were discovering something dark. Like she said, it was sad, and like I was thinking about a piece you referred me to, Jim, about it wasn't wasn't even venal. It was squalid. It was just human. You know.
Yeah.
I don't know. What do you think? Like,
I mean,
let's put the spotlight on you, Jim.
So,
and Richard, what do you think? Like, I mean, I guess, would you say, Jim, you and Richard are kind of in sync about Henry's agency, and I agree with you guys about his being our stand-in in a way. But I do think, in some ways, it's supposed to be like that, and that tension isn't relieved until the end when you see him kind of going, yeah, sure, what the hell, I'm in for the full ride.
Yeah. So, sorry, what was we're going into what point now? I was following your last thing.
Yeah. What do you think? What does Richard think? Let's say, maybe it is. It's about my take on his agency and the role he's not just for to be the stand-in for the viewers. I think in a way he's like every politically active person, especially at that level. They got to kind of they can't all work for. None of these guys are unicorns. Even Obama wasn't a unicorn. He had no problem sending drones all over Hell's Half Acre. Like, I mean, you know, like you don't get to, like
there's a couple things. Is that once, you know, I think it lasts for probably about a half an hour where he's new to it, and he's still sort of doing I'm surprised at this, and I can't do that. I got to teach in the morning, and all these other things, and these but, and then pretty soon afterwards, he's shouting at people and saying, "Where's my fucking suitcase?" and that kind of thing. So he actually, it develops over time, of course, but I think he gets into it, and that's also, if he was seduced or whatever, I think that's part of it as well. It is there was also that scene when he was absolved on Larry King, I guess, when they had the 2-story hotel motel, and he came out and everybody was sort of dancing and all happy and stuff. And I can see, you become part of it. Like, even a little bit into the movie, he was sort of returning to the office and being given big hugs and greeting people. And I know you've worked on stuff before, and I've always thought, maybe that's what I don't know if I do it these days, because I'm a little bit cynical, and I can't imagine ever getting behind someone like that unless they were a real unicorn. But it would be neat to be swept up in something like that, I think, and that's just an experience I haven't had. Especially if they're successful. You manage to back the right person, right? On election night, you're not with the 3 balloons and you're trying to get drunk as fast as possible. But, I mean, so it does change, I think, over time. To some extent, he's our stand-in for the whole thing, I think. But he does, he gets confidence in it. He grows in his position. He starts to know the language, know what's expected of him. Knows who he can shout at and who he can't shout at, that kind of thing. So,
Well, and I think what I liked about this movie as compared to the last one, and now I've not had. I'm almost like a perfect dilettante. Boy, I can sound like I have a lot more experience than I do. That said, yes, I have been involved in a couple of campaigns, a couple like very deeply involved, but nothing like a couple of the folks in the chat watching. Richard, but I can say, and I'd be interesting to hear Richard's view, although he's brought up another comment we'll get to in a second, but I can say this to you, Jim, and I'd love to hear if Richard agrees or disagrees with me, or Katie, or anyone else who watching this later, but I found this way more realistic about how a campaign actually works. Especially with the volunteers, because one of the things that we kind of, as professionalized as political campaigns have become, Jim, there's still most of the labor is still volunteer driven. And you get an interesting mix of weirdos. Wonderful weirdos. Like, I mean, and I like me, everyone's thinking they're normal. But this wonderful mix of weirdos, retirees, like it just, and you glom them together, and by the end of a campaign, you end up turning them into something kind of awesome. And some of them incredibly experienced, where volunteers, like in a Canadian campaign, you literally have the guy show up. You haven't been able to talk to him for years, and then he comes up, a few days before the real campaign really kicks off. Yeah, I do signs. No, I've already called everyone. I'll get the signs out. Where are the signs? This is all I need. and a campaigner's, well, check. I don't have to worry about that. You'll have these people come out of the woodwork who've been doing that for 40 effing years, or however many campaigns they've done. They do that one thing. They do it very well. So you get experiences like that, which are kind of cool. This felt a lot more real. Like the somebody else, and she can, if she wishes to chime in, saying I agree. But one of the things that, all campaigns are kind of shit shows about to blow up, but could achieve greatness. And this felt like that in a way none of the others did. People yelling at each other. The other thing I liked about this movie that I thought was a lot more real is the biggest crazy maker in any campaign is the candidate.
Yeah.
And the way he's like he just flies in. Anyway, so you come in. It's almost, okay, get in the truck. Wait, but I got to do that. Like the way Henry feels is the way most people have felt on a campaign. Kind of, we're not doing that. We're doing this. Candidate wants to do X. It's like, I guess we're doing that now. Or the news, that reaction to the news. So I felt this was in many respects a lot more real. Some of this is not even, they kind of amp up for drama. There was no Pecker stand-in that campaign. That he's not an analog for the clef in Romana clef or Filma clef, Cinema clef is the key. And so somebody corresponds to somebody else. There was no Pecker, or at least not that I'm aware of. There was also no 14-year-old pregnant girl. I think that, it made for a better book and a better movie, but I don't think that was, no, 23-year-old White House interns. That's,
I think you mentioned it when I was
put Richard's comment up. Oh, we're gonna have to read it anyway.
Oh, he's got a bunch of them.
Yeah. Okay. He does. Well, you speak while I get these sorted out. So I put up the right one.
Well, actually, just to catch up, there's two things. Ry Cooder, the music by Ry Cooder, he was the guy behind the Buena Vista Social Club that sort of kicked off the whole Cuban music.
Really?
Fad, fad. But its popularity back in the 70s. Oh, we got somebody with us. Somebody else with us.
Oh, what do we got? Oh, you know what? Just a sec here. I think we got to do more than just, Jim. We have to do more than just the wave. Bear with me, everyone.
Oh my gosh!
Let's
something keyed up.
Let's. I think he deserves one of these.
Yeah, there we go.
All right, Jelly Duck. Ahmed, you're absolutely right. I'm sure we'll talk about performances more in a little bit. Oh, check this out, Jelly Duck.
You missed my Bidens, so I'm just getting them on. Acorn Pop.
But to go to Jelly Duck's comment, Travolta, boy, there's some outstanding performances, and but Travolta definitely won, and I have more to say on that. I'm sure Jim does too.
Yeah.
So let's just run through, because Richard had a great series of comments here. We'll briefly put up the one where he's agreeing with me. Maybe we'll just keep it on there.
Can't read anything.
Boy, can I burn it into the credits? But this is a good one. I was laughing movies when they condense probably 50 people into one role: campaign manager, dirt digger, advisor.
Yeah.
Richard, I'm kind of curious. Like, what I did like though about that empty office, here, hand out leaflets, that I'm kind of you're absolutely right, but I'm kind of curious what you thought of the general vibe. They almost like kind of, here is the retiree. Every campaign has retirees. Here is the, the super keener, but kind of socially awkward, and that was that young man accosting passers-by, he also chimes in, he loves your I really like Jim's elastic band metaphor too. Absolutely right. Like, I mean, it's actually the metaphor that allowed me to kind of make sense of the, really tie in the end scene, because that's when it snaps.
Yeah.
It's a nice cut.
True. That's true. Yeah.
Okay, he's recampaigns, I agree. Started out with motley crew of volunteers, which you saw grow in size and sophistication as the movie went on. Yeah. Also, the ability of a candidate to bring someone on, just in his, like, how many Canadians love it? It's the human thing. It's why we like candidates we think we can like. Yeah. It's why Ignatieff never took off, it's why only Harper could get elected in a parliamentary system. No one would have ever voted for him as prime minister. But that ability of a campaign of a candidate to connect with someone, which I think is what the Stanton character, and Clinton was known for, that ability to truly listen, to give you such, how did you put it when you've interviewed some stars, that laser-like focus?
Yeah. Jeff Goldblum in particular, you're just sort of like starstruck, like genuinely, like, I don't know what to say. And, he gave me the double handshake too. And it just like, it's like, fuck, is this magic? What's going on?
I'm having an out-of-body experience.
Yeah, exactly.
Richard, yes, the candidate is never the campaign strategist. No.
What?
If you think they're badly organized, wait if you actually had a candidate running the show.
Yeah.
What do you mean the campaign's tomorrow? But wait, I said. So I think, what do we want to talk about performances?
Sure. Before I forget, there was one little, not an Easter egg, but I mentioned last week, there's a scene with a staircase, and I had recently just watched Stephen Colbert. He had the whole crew of the West Wing on, the whole cast, because they're doing this HBO charity restaging of an episode of The West Wing. Anyway, so he had the whole cast, and the one that plays CJ, who is Allison, what's her name now? Allison Janney. Allison Janney.
Oh, Janney or Janie?
Yeah, Janney. And there's a scene where at the very start, it turns out that it's in the first 4 minutes, I think, where she's talking about, she's the one who's running the adult literacy program in the sort of the graffiti-ridden school. And so they're going up the staircase, and she totally and genuinely wipes right out. Like, she just sort of, she just does and it looks like it's kind of painful too. But she gets up and sort of dusts herself off. And so they were talking on Colbert recently, and she said that she suspected that was why she got the role as C.J. Craig on The West Wing. She goes,
really?
Aaron Sorkin. She says, Aaron, did you hire me just because, you had me come in for all those auditions and things like that? When did you really, at what point did you know that I was going to be CJ? And he goes, when I saw you about 6 months before falling down the stairs on Primary Colors. So that was that was a little story there.
There was your win.
Yeah. So
That's awesome.
yeah.
Well, but like when you look at these, whether they were be small, let me get, smaller parts, little tight, small little role. Hey, interestingly enough, so I'm looking up some of these actors. The guy who plays the kind of manic young man at the beginning, but he becomes slicker, smoother on the phone and everything, the redheaded kid, he's hasn't acted in a few years. What he has is he's been Jeremy Renner, Ronan, see last film Friday 5-ish, link in the description. But the Jeremy Renner's personal assistant.
Oh, you're kidding.
He's been his guy for the last few
movies.
MCU movies.
Oh yeah, okay.
Yeah. So and I'm assuming then he's like his permanent guy, because the young man, the adult, might be married, I don't know. But yeah, he's been Jeremy Renner's assistant. So
the body man.
That was kind of interesting. He's Jeremy Renner's body man.
Which you were just mentioning that phrase last week, and then it comes up again.
Yeah, well, it's kind of
sort
of why I thought this is a perfect time to take a look at these kinds of movies. Like, I mean, as we're getting into, maybe Jim, in some ways, one of the most consequential elections of our lifetime, and we're not even citizens of that country.
Yeah, exactly.
But it'll have an impact.
Oh, yeah.
But let's go through some of these roles. John Travolta, wow, without chewing the scenery. Even he's just, because of the way they shot him, he's always kind of like, we're removed. We are observing him. We're not getting sucked in by him. But we can kind of see why Henry is getting sucked in by him.
He's not just doing an impression with the two hands and I feel your pain and didn't he used to bite his thumb, or they had some sort of thing like that on Daryl Hammond would do on SNL? No, it's a genuine sort of a genuine performance,
a real character.
I think I thought it was really good, and I was very impressed by him. Who I was really impressed with, and he only had a few scenes, was Larry Hagman. Was dynamite. You really felt that this was a guy who was sort of like in over his head a little bit, but maybe used to know the game a bit. And he's got those big eyes. He's I wasn't sure, he passed on in 2012, so he still had a few years after that, but he had been dealing with some health problems, and it turns out that he was a bit of a sort of into the scene, with a little bit of drugs and alcohol. Unless I'm
to quote Tony Shalhoub's character, whatever he did.
And this is a guy
Tony Shalhoub.
Tony Shalhoub's in it.
Outstanding.
And there's one thing that we often say in this household. It's like, this movie's got a lot of people in it. The subtext is people we recognize. Yeah. But it's, there's a lot of folks. The Dwayne Smith, or the Dwayne Smith was the character.
McKelty.
He was from Forrest Gump, who's I think the Bubba Shrimp guy. But tons of people. But I'd say I think Kathy Bates was nominated for an Oscar for this Best Supporting Actress, and Larry Hagman, I thought both their roles were they did good work, and I thought they were both fantastic.
Also, interestingly enough, as we're talking about the gender stuff, it was only at the time, I guess, an American thing. I don't think it was ever a Canadian thing, but I guess an American thing was to refer to these women as muffins.
Yeah.
The, young Keener. And in what should be maximum creep, we somehow are totally fine with the lesbian Libby kind of going, oh, I like her. Yeah.
Yeah.
Mommy. And it's like, we are okay because the movie is okay with it.
Yeah.
It is only referred to as romantic.
Well, and
which is kind of effed up, actually. She's literally, like you. You're going to come to this house with me. And then they're sleeping with each other.
You got short hair, get in my truck. I don't know how that works.
I want her. It's
Yeah.
like, oh my God.
Well, that all happened so quickly, and maybe I'm still naive or something, but it was literally, there was a scene of Henry waking up with Maura Tierney in bed,
Mm-hmm.
and
I
then,
think they set that up better than they did the Libby and Jennifer.
but it was just like, what? And then
Libby and the muffin.
And then immediately, I think they were on a phone call together, weren't they, or something to that effect? And it was just like, the post-coital morning after for both couples, or something to that effect. And I thought, boy, that happened fast.
Well, I think though, okay, the Libby got, I'll take her.
Yeah.
Come to me. Like a spider or something. Although she played a great stereotype of a number of, a lesbian. But there was what's the word I'm looking for? I thought the people engaging in consensual sex, and it looked like the Libby and Jennifer, it was consensual as well.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I'm not, notwithstanding how they came to be together.
Mm-hmm.
That is because it's a very intense experience in a very short period of time. You're zipping through a lot of courtship in 2 days that would take 3 weeks or a month in university. They're all together. It's super intense. To pair off like that, I'm buying that. I wouldn't mind hearing what Richard and Katie, what their view of that is. They've been around some campaigns as well, but the campaigns I've been around, I've seen that. I might have had a couple of experiences at political conventions because, again, it's very intense. A lot of young people,
It's war, right?
and a lot of it also is you're doing something very kind of narrow and specialized. You're hanging out all the time, and what is the actual best? There are two best predictors for compatibility for getting together: proximity and similarity. And so in a political campaign, you've taken care of both. Like it's like you've dated for a month already. So there's a lot of good sociological, like well-researched reasons why they hook up. And so I bought that from my experience, Yeah. But yes, Richard and Katie, I'd love to hear what their view is on that, if they've observed the same thing or experienced it.
Here's a question I had for you, and this has always sort of made me uneasy, and I'm not entirely sure why.
That was highly inappropriate. Richard, Katie, you do not have to answer that. Sorry.
No, it's okay. So whenever, and it's usually the same 10 or 20 people, is a high-profile media person playing themselves in a movie.
They had 3.
Yeah, Larry King, Charlie Rose, and Geraldo. I that's always seemed kind of like wink, wink, nudge, nudge, just a little bit. And there's a point where Charlie Rose actually has to act. He sort of looks surprised or something like that. And I don't know. I don't know if I like
that was not a standout performance.
Yeah, I don't know if I like that practice. I see why they do it, so they don't have to establish that. I mean, they refer to the Inquirer like what do they call it? The Blaze or the Flame or something like that. Yeah. The Inquirer like paper that threatens to break a bunch of stories. They refer to that as a different name. But I guess you don't want to go through the work of creating a new CNN and making it sound realistic and all that other kind of stuff. But anyways, that's always something that's
I think
sort
some
of
it is they like being in movies.
Winkety nudgety.
It's not even just that the film is like, would you please be in our thing? They're more like, oh, can we be in your movie?
Yeah.
I agree with you. I don't like it. I like the verisimilitude of Game Change. They paid for a clip, they cut it in. And those are well-established rates, and they're just part of the movie budget. But when they're doing this, I think it actually hurts the media person's credibility. It hurts, it's like, I got to admit, I appreciate, especially the bigger the player, the more flexibility there is in their contracts and that. But there's something, like, heck, why not just give him a role? Don't call him Larry King, Barry Sing. And I don't mean that with an H. I'm just trying to think of something that rhymes with King. Barry Wing.
But they do it all the time. I mean, it'd be actually kind of an interesting thing. And sometimes they're real stinkers,
The CBN network. CBNN.
Sometimes not even
CBNN.
And you got to create the graphic, and you got to you got to establish, you got to waste a lot of energy establishing this news network.
Heck, Jim, I've created graphics for our rinky dink thing. They can figure it out. I'm sure they can figure it out. I think it's but going back to it, it's they want that credibility. But if you're going to talk about a fake candidate, then have these fake things that stand in for real things. Run with the whole thing. Otherwise it's like, news is in many respects entertainment, but it'd be nice. Like, it's just a little bit of a paper China wall. Sure, maybe it's translucent, you can see through it, but some barrier is nice. Let us maintain the fiction that they aren't all part of some elite co-op manipulating us for the interests of the rich and powerful. Give me this veneer in a movie.
No, it's you noticed.
Okay. Well, first of all, yes, I've noticed. Jelly Duck, is Larry King still alive? He is, isn't he?
Oh yeah, and he does. He's retired from CNN, and what he does now is he does these special reports, which are usually about
that's right. They're paid for by the Russians.
Well, or he does like products and things like that.
And paid for, and some of his special reports are they're funded by Russian Times and Sputnik, and he's
so still on the scene. I think he's on his 8th marriage or something, but I don't know if that's something that would come on the TV and where Jelly Duck is, but we often still see him in North America here. So
I think we got to welcome someone.
Who's that?
Who would it be?
Corn Pop. Is it the cheering?
Listen to that cheering for you, Jelly Duck.
Shashank, you mean?
Or Shashank, I'm sorry.
We're welcoming Jelly Duck Toys.
I
have to put my Biden glasses back on for Shashank there, so he can appreciate these. Spirit of Halloween.
This is brilliant, actually. Hey. Yes, hello, Shashank. Great to see you. Jelly Duck, you are on the team. Nice shout out to our man Shashank, our man in Chennai.
Yes.
Katie, this is a great point about what we're just talking about. Just get that light bright background going on that Larry King had on his set. People will figure it out.
Yeah.
She's absolutely right. There's those keys. Those we just need a few icons, and we're like, oh, that's X. Then you don't even need to pay Larry King money.
See, there's
any competent older actor would deliver what Larry King does, but
there's even a certain
along with some suspenders.
There's even a 60 Minutes look where they do a thing where their heads are at a certain ratio to the screen, and they're not quite right in the middle, like they're a third over or something. And it's like, it reminds me of when you're reading about The Simpsons and how they create Bart, and his eyeballs got to be 9 of those pupils long, and that kind of thing.
Proportion in that,
yeah. So there's a definite 60 Minutes look. Even when they're not showing any of the
nagging you to get your eyes on the top third line, and
Yeah.
You never do.
This thing. I hate this anyway. But so there's that certain look that you can replicate, quite easily and make it look like a 60-minute set, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. No, there's all those little cues. Oh, Shashank has come in. He's received his cheering. He got his wave, and that's like,
oh my gosh.
Listen, Shashank, thanks for popping by. Always good to see you. Maybe we'll see you on the show again soon.
Sunday night's here, so probably Monday morning there, I guess, right? Is that how that works?
Yeah. We're 10.5 hours ahead of them.
Okay.
But we'll talk more after the show.
Certainly.
All right. So where the heck? So we got Killer. I love to hear what everyone says in the chat, but yeah, Jim, I don't feel right about them. Especially that many. Like Rob Reiner delivered.
Oh yes, yeah.
God damn, did he deliver?
Yeah.
And you got that whole vibe, so you don't need.
Yeah.
Jeez, they had great performances from like really small little roles. It's like, how many favors can we roll in? Hey, come, you get to do this. You could almost, I imagine Rob Reiner going, I'd love to do that in one day. Yeah, let's do it.
Fly me in.
And I mean, Travolta might be all Scientology crazy. But boy, what a great guy to. He seemed very set generous. He's not trying to chew the scenery. It's not like Delroy Lindo in the Defy Bloods where he's like screaming at everyone or, he is acting with these people.
Yes,
even the little winks like in the radio scene, and I'm reading your book here. As he winks to Rob Reiner. Well, it's be my guest. Yeah. Oh, wait, you are my guest. Who's your favorite comedian? What?
and how much of that is Nichols and May, like getting a chance to work with them, in the
former.
Yeah.
Go ahead. Yeah.
He's obviously in the last few, I think he lived until 2012, Mike Nichols there. But, I mean, Elaine May's still around. She's 88 right now. And I think they gave her an honorary Oscar recently, in the last 2 years or something. Oh, yeah. So
Nichols and May.
Yeah. And it's a chance, do you want to work? It's like a one-day shoot. We'll fly in, fly you out, and put you up in a nice place. And you get to work with Mike Nichols. It'd be like, they'd be like a shoe-in, right?
Yeah. So, and to play these more shtick characters while still, like, really being part of the movie. Like, it doesn't, again, not a tonal shift. Not a, this is just somebody showing off. Like, they get it, that it's got to fit in a movie. But I think that also, I've been watching a lot of stuff, Jim, on... and reading a fair bit about auteur theory. And you could definitely say Mike Nichols is a great director, and he certainly, his films, he does comedy well. But I think he's a great example of a great director that wouldn't fit auteur theory because he's not making the grand point and look at me directing.
Yeah.
I think that played in all these great performances that weren't look at me acting. They're all great performances, really carved out some space, but at no time did you think, okay, the scene's about me now, and then it'll be about him, and then it'll, the way they interacted with each other, it seems to me that really kind of the way that Mike Nichols and Elaine May, the way we'll write this story this way because that's what this story needs, period. Well, and what the producers have hired us for,
Yeah. No, it's one of those. I keep on wanting to look back, and I think unless I'm wrong, Mike Nichols. Yeah, I know, me too. Mike Nichols is really quite a life story. I believe he was there. I mean, you can look it up afterwards, but I think he was like a war
orphan.
orphan.
Even looking it up now.
Well, he's like a war orphan. I just don't want to get any of the like his name's not Mike Nichols. That's his Americanized name, but he's got a really. It might have been, I think it was An American Experience, which is a really great documentary series on PBS, and I think I watched one on him a couple of years ago. But he's
born Mikhail Igor Peshkovsky or Peshkowski, probably mispronouncing that a little, depending on where, but comedy, like a vaudeville almost. I mean, 1950s, but
So he's
born in Berlin, when it was still the Weimar Republic.
Yep.
Oh my God.
So
sorry, I gotta.
No, he's about 10 when the shit hits the fan, basically.
Yes, this I remember.
Yeah.
Like, so let's look at his, geez, career as a director, the 60s, the 70s, the 80s, the 1990s, the 2000s. Oh, wait, we're still going. He's still alive. Oh, no, he died in 1914. Sorry.
Yeah.
But the 2010s, I guess he was still doing some stuff.
Oh yeah, I think he did some Broadway too, even later on, and
like, look at this. Oh yeah, he was doing theater. Theater for the last 10 years of his 10, 15, even 20. Wow, oh no, this is just his theater credits. Sorry, and then here's film. Charlie Wilson's War.
Yes, yeah.
Which is another great film.
Uh-huh.
That I also, kind of like this one, kind of shows you the corruption of the American political system. Small c. Like that kind of, it's almost like unaware of its own hypocrisy.
Yeah.
But, which would make sense from an immigrant who made good. They're always there. It does not shock me that this guy would, as I bounce around through all the possible views, but it doesn't surprise me that this guy would make a film with a kind light on America and look at its foible, or let's look at it, some of its characters with a little kinder focus, a little kinder, and maybe more of a kinder angle. It's like, we could drill into the guy, or we can kind of take a step back, a little wider view, and kind of go, there's a bit of visual metaphoring for you. This is only the best kind of pretentious film BS on our show, Jim.
Yeah, you come for the high grades, the top shelf.
Thank you. High tone. Yep. Yeah, Jelly Duck Ahmed chimes in. That's a lot of movies when he did. Yes. Ahmed, you're absolutely right. The guy has Biloxi Blues, which I loved. I thought that was another great movie.
Yeah, it's been a while since I've seen that one.
Working Girl, for crying out loud.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
You know what? Yeah, great Catch-22 classic. Mm-hmm. Perhaps a forgotten classic, but he did Silkwood too, and that was, I remember that movie.
God,
probably wouldn't hold up well because it is such a kind of, oh wow, this happened. But
it's got Cher in it. How dare you?
Cher, great Cher.
Yeah,
playing a lesbian.
Yes,
if memory serves, but not like Libby, where she's just going, "Come here, I'll take her." That's terrible, like. Where the heck are we, Jim? There was a couple other items I did want to talk about. What I thought was there was a scene, hour and 15 minutes in. Mm-hmm. Clinton is talking to a union crowd, some local and some union local shipbuilders or something, and one of those old craft unions in a factory that's been shut down, which was very much a big part of the 80s. And I'd even say, here, let me straighten my glasses, I don't look so cockeyed. Which I would say was a big part of, it happened in the 80s, and that was when the Democratic Party was accused of losing its way into the 90s. And something some folks might not know if they're watching this, Clinton was a new Democrat, a creature of what was called the Democratic Leadership Congress, the Democratic Leadership Council, which was a bunch of Rockefeller, like high money, high donor, multimillionaire and billionaire. I don't think there are many billionaires, not as many at the time. This is the late 80s and early 90s. But what they're trying to recruit is more open-minded, free trade, neoconservative kind of moderates. They wanted to fight against the Teddy Kennedy radicals, and, kind of say, oh, you've had your shot. We can't beat the Republicans. We need a more moderate choice. And I think this is where it is the most weak on its, this is why this can be as much of a reason for Trump as it is any right-wing race baiting. There's this moment in that where he's saying, your jobs aren't going to come back. You're going to have to retrain, reskill,
Go back to school.
Go back to school. He's like, yeah, that 60-year-old's doing that. Yeah. Although even the 60-year-old could, but it's still not, it is, because the way he's delivering it, it does not seem callous, but it's such a great classic capitalist thing. We don't need what you do now. Tell you what, we'll help you find something else, and maybe we'll need that, because we've shipped your job overseas. It's, it goes where muscle power is cheap. The $1 billion can move at a push of a button. Yeah, because of government policy changes in the 80s and 90s. Yeah. This wasn't something that was easy to do until the rules made it easy to do. Mm-hmm. And here is, and this is where
that's Reagan.
That was Reagan and this Democratic Leadership Council, which is a big player behind a number of up-and-comers. Think of the Heritage Foundation, but for Democrats, for Democrat elected officials. They'd support these guys who are open to new ideas. Maybe not right to work state thing, but maybe something like it, so there's that moment in that where the Adrian Lester's character, Henry Burton, sure, he's the grandchild of a civil rights leader, but definitely an affluent one. He's a child of affluence, highly educated, connected. He is recruited by Stanton, not the other way around. He's his ex-girlfriend saying, he wants you because of who you are, not because of what, who you were born to. So, and in that moment, here's the affluent, educated kid who's, his future's going to be fine no matter what. He's Henry Burton, grandson of, some guy whose name we never hear.
John Lewis.
I'm sure that's the kind of thing they're trying to allude to,
Yeah.
And he's literally, one guy, more of an older Paul played, I think it was that Guilfoyle played him.
Yeah.
Paul Guilfoyle. He's we lost him right there. And here's the rich kid going, fuck him, he's got me. Because it's this, I can't make this come back. Sure you could. You could change the rules back. We're always sold that was a fait accompli. And it's like, no, it isn't. Change rules all the time. Free trade is not a natural fact of the world.
Yeah.
And definitely not the freedom of capital movement, because we still have no problem, screwing around with goods, The movement of labor, that's never been free. The movement of goods still has many, many controls on it.
Yeah.
You know, it seemed to be the only real thing that happened there was the movement of capital. You know, like, I mean, and there's my 80s left-wing view of that. And that was the moment, and it was like that truth when you don't even, that was not intended.
Yeah.
You know, to be shown. It's like literally you're saying what the people need is just someone who cares about them, will fight for them. No, they need the bright. His wife, the Susan in the movie, is like, give me a curriculum. What's the policy? You know, so
yeah, and
I really thought that was an important scene. Like,
well, it's one of the scenes where he doesn't seem to win people over. Like he just, the crowd goes silent. You know,
at that moment, but they still cheer for him at the end.
Oh yeah, but
they believe he loves them.
You can hear a pin drop in the hall there.
At that moment,
that's interesting. I was in terms of some interesting other. I wanted to mention before we wrap up the media, the portrayal of the media. They mention a couple of things. Actually, they mentioned 60 Minutes, and this is 22 years ago. 60 Minutes tonight had a big, guest on with the Donald Trump walking off. So it's interesting that that's still, like, we happen to be on Sunday night. It was earlier on Sunday night. I didn't watch it, but they're still talking about 60 Minutes then. And then there's Catch and Kill, which I think I mentioned a little bit earlier.
I didn't remember seeing that. Here, quickly, let's just give a quick wave bye to Jelly Duck Ahmed. Thanks for coming out, man. Appreciate it. And you know what? I missed your stream earlier today, which was kind of a bummer, buddy. You got to get on a schedule. Love to join you in one of your streams, man. Okay, but Jelly Duck, good to see you.
See you, Jelly Duck.
Here's a Richard referring, I think, to my earlier comment. Thatcher's Tina. There is no alternative. Yes, Richard. Yeah, that's you hit it. Hit the nail on the head. Yeah. Bye, Jelly Duck. Richard chiming in as well. It's nice to see the community. The community we are building here.
Yes.
You, Jim, me, Ahmed, Shashank, Richard, Katie. This is awesome. Okay, but you were saying, back to what you were saying there, Jim.
So the couple of media things is the 60 Minutes thing.
Catch and kill.
And they didn't say the phrase catch and kill, but they were talking about the hairdresser. They said, maybe we can pay her $200,000 and then bury the story. That's catch and kill, where you pay for somebody for their story and then don't run it. So it's the same thing.
That would be what the Inquirer has been doing for Trump.
Yes, and that was mentioned in relation to the relationship with the hairdresser about a half an hour or 40 minutes into the movie.
I don't think that was ever serious, though. I'm not sure it was even a catch and kill.
Well, it was a reference to it, and that's exactly what it is you're buying a story to bury it so nobody else, they don't go to anybody else with their, you sign a whatever, you make it sort of legal, and it's the same thing that Rowan, who is it now, Rowan Farrow was writing about recently with the Harvey Weinstein business and stuff that the Inquirer was doing. So they didn't come out and say it, but that's exactly what it is.
But I think, like, the difference between the two, I think in this context, which is why I didn't think of it as catch and kill, was that the campaign would pay her, which would be like just a straight up bribe. It'd be illegal. They're not allowed to use their money that way.
Well,
and so when the Inquirer's doing it for Trump, what they're hoping is that someone will charge the Inquirer and charge Trump because it's that's basically a campaign contribution. Of course, the Inquirer will be like, well, prove it. We bought the story and then we decided not to, we made a business decision that we were not going to go forward with the story.
I mean, that's those are subspecies of the same genus, basically. I mean, it's a way to bury something and not have to worry about it, right? And no matter what the path is. But there's that. And then there was a little bit of the media shaming too, which they didn't really harp on too much. But he was saying, "Oh, the media is giving me a hard time." So he was trying like a Trump-like message. I think even in that Union Hall scene that you were talking about, he comes out, he goes,
"Oh yeah,
you guys are riding me harder than." Yeah, exactly. So there's a bit of a trifecta there where just references to some of the same things that they're still in the stream.
I'm not sure it's so much what he's complaining about the media and they're giving him a hard time and everything. I think that was every elected official ever.
Yeah.
Unless the coverage is glowing, they think the media sucks.
Yeah.
As much as they love them.
It was noteworthy because it was,
in a way, an extreme example of every elected official.
Yeah.
Every politician, you want the media coverage. Like, it's just, Trump has such an incredibly thin skin.
Yeah.
Like, more than a lot of elected officials. Like, and they can be a thin-skinned bunch.
Oh, yeah.
But yeah, they love the media, and the media will love them. Rana Bakari had fucking great coverage for years until it became, oh, we're in election now. Okay, we got to ask you hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
And then what was she doing? Complaining about the media picking on her.
Yeah. But it's something that's
traveling down a road so well worn. It's like you'd think, oh, did the Romans build this road? It's perfectly straight. It's got so many same footsteps. They're actually working. They got footmarks and cart tracks worked into the stone. I think Jesus. I think that's his sandal marks here.
But it's some things don't change even in 22 years, which actually in the scheme of things isn't that long.
No.
They might get more extreme or what have you, or change form somewhat. But it's just kind of interesting to see.
What else? What else you got?
No, that's just I think I've covered my notes. I like the momathon. They're in the middle of a momathon. They're talking about their. It's funny too, and maybe this was similar to
seeing these men crying.
Yeah.
Feeling.
Yeah.
I kind of like that actually. What was the other? We mentioned a couple other movies where we thought that was kind of nice. It wasn't necessarily toxic masculinity.
Yeah. Yeah, no, you see it from time to time. What was that now? You're asking me to go back a bit.
I'm trying to think what movie where we were like kind of happy about it. Whereas I'd say Game Change was a lot more posturing.
Three Idiots.
That's it.
Yeah.
But I would say Game Change is a lot more, like classic movie masculine posturing.
Yeah.
Remember, and it was a thing that I only kind of got at after, like we had seen Annihilation. And I'd even said to another person, because I am a 53-year-old white man, sexist crap just kind of pops out of my mouth by like magic, and I'm not aware of it until maybe an hour later I go, that was an incredibly patronizing thing to say. Or just obtusely unaware, sexist. But I was talking about Annihilation to a coworker, a woman, because of course that's when you have to really look like an idiot. And I was saying how it's like, wow, you could really just kind of flip the genders in that movie. Like it shows that you do not need you can have an all-woman cast in a sci-fi movie. But then I thought something you had mentioned about Annihilation, this is only afterwards, where you're saying, one of the things you noticed about it was that there wasn't any, usually in those movies, if it's a bunch of guys, you gotta have some posturing over who's leader. And it kind of sets up the conflict. And you didn't see that in Annihilation.
Yeah.
There was no, one tough guy and another tough guy, like what you would expect. I'd argue you didn't see that in this movie either. You saw it in Game Change, but you didn't see that in here. It's mostly just people trying to get other people to do certain things.
Yeah.
They're not posturing. They might be losing their cool, but they're not, don't you know who I am? And I'm the big deal here.
Yeah.
We never saw any of that. Even when Stanton is having a meltdown. It's presented as, here's a grown man having a temper tantrum. What a great moment in the car. Whips the phone out, and how both, like, they must have had somebody like helping him along, or that's, as a director, that's what I would have done, I think, is okay, and then you just, both of you follow the stick, just off camera. But the way both the Susan Emma Thompson, an understated awesome force in this movie, Emma Thompson and Adrian Lester's eyes track, as they watch the cell phone go. But you don't feel like he's threatening and posturing. He's a grown man having a temper tantrum. I really liked that about this movie. Like, are you buying that? Like,
no, it's it makes sense, and I've worked in, it's similar to, I'd say working in restaurants where somebody has a flip out in the middle of the dinner rush, and you're like, we'll have beers later, we'll deal with it, and it sort of was that kind of thing too. So
that's a great, that's an excellent another, like, similar. I don't know what I'm trying to say.
Just not to take personally. It's just something that happens. Let him get rid of the the bad blood, or the sort of the whatever. Let him just deal with that, and once he blows it off, he'll be okay. So.
Well, and then even in the phone call, like, I mean, there's Stanton, like, total soft skills pro kind of. No, I know how hard you work. I know how, like, he's not. They're not doing that. This is high stakes and important. Don't you know it? But later on, when he's really laying it down, what? This is hardball. You telling me now you don't have the, the balls for it? I was like, that's why I if I was to compare the two, rank them, I guess it's kind of obvious for me. Yeah, this movie, even in the part that is like we look at differently, it's still a great historical, that is how we looked at gender relations. That is how we looked at this guy in the 90s. Mm-hmm. This is how we felt about him. This is how we felt about guys who did that. They're just too charming for their own good. The even the greasier stuff, we kind of made those compromises. But it was so much more real, honest, gentle but honest look at this stuff, whereas still kind of, and again, another, I think you talked about it, we both talked about it, I think, in Game Change, but you still, again, it's that media and apparatchik, we're scratching each other's back, because they're all in the same goddamn business, I'd say this one holds up on a couple levels. In some ways, this is a movie that, which it's kind of a comedy, has aged very well. Would you agree with that, or?
Yeah, I mean, at the same time, it's interesting to see it as a historical document too. I mean, as the years go on, right? Mm-hmm. And I think people will be surprised if they don't know much about Clinton and they don't know much about this movie. They'll sort of pop this in and maybe do some reading on it later, say 60 years in the future or what have you, and they'll be like, oh, okay, so that there's nothing like this about, say, Warren G. Harding or anything like that. It's that crazy guy, that bag of contradictions. But yeah, I mean I always hate generalizing, but yeah, I'd say this holds up pretty well. I was, I'm pleased to see it again. It's pretty tight.
Yeah, no, it's a really solid flick, mm-hmm. And it doesn't, again, except for that going to Miami, that film noir, like what you thought was a tone shift. I obviously didn't feel quite that. I thought it was almost like we're this one, probably the darkest part of the movie, actually, mm-hmm. Even though. No, sleeping with the 14-year-old, even if he wasn't the baby, the daddy, the baby daddy. Yeah. Still, it's like it's a child.
And when you know that watching
and there was never any allegations about Clinton ever.
No.
screwing a child.
When you've seen this before, and you go into this, and you know that about the young woman, you can see her looking at him, and you notice like
him kind of, hey,
yeah.
Anyway, what were you saying again?
Yeah.
Hi.
There's a body language thing that's going on that's
really?
very
You don't say.
That's kind of interesting too. So, but yeah, no, it's I mean, it's a lot of stuff in this movie, a lot of people and a lot of stuff, like.
But
a lot going on.
It doesn't draw its attention to itself as a film. And like I said, even the Miami part where it gets noiry, you still kind of go, yeah, you're in in part because Abby and Henry have that great comedy shtick going back and forth.
Yeah.
It's just, we're really on the edge now. If you don't shut up, I'm going to kill myself.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
Like how they just become more comfortable with each other.
She keeps talking.
Yeah. And this is the woman he saw threaten somebody with a gun.
Yeah.
Like a really big gun. And by the end of the movie, he's like, oh, would you just shut up? Or I'll kill myself. What again, for folks who are still in the chat, feel free to chime in. Do you think this movie held up? It was made in 1998. Is it something where, there's certainly the great thing about setting it at a certain time, you don't have to worry about anachronisms. It was only made 6 years later. There wasn't like, nobody has that. The flip phones are, him looking like a jerk in the diner in the small airport.
Which one was that?
The phone rings. So they're doing that interview where it's, they're holding hands.
Oh, yes. Oh, yeah.
Maura Tierney, was it Molly or Emily?
Emmy. Yeah, I have it open here. Let me just...
Patsy. I don't know. But she calls him. He answers his phone. He looks. Everyone's looking at him like he's a jerk.
Yeah.
It's 1991.
Yeah.
What an asshole.
Daisy. She was Daisy.
Daisy. Thank you. All right. So you figured it hold up. Would love to know what people think. Drop a comment in the chat. I think we're just about ready to wrap up. Jim, let's put the focus on you.
Sure.
Let's put it all on you, Jim. It's all
my
about
gosh.
you. Oh, wait, you know what we first need to do?
Oh, the three.
I can't believe we haven't done this yet. All right, everybody, it's that time. I haven't asked for this yet. God, I got to be on top of this. Okay, if you give us a like, give us a subscribe if you haven't already. By the way, we are up to 58 subscribers.
Wow.
It's part due to you people doing your part. Thank you. Thank you all so very much. And then, of course, I did. Ring the notification bell. Ring a ding ding. I gotta get a bell effect. I know I have them. I will make that happen. All right. So Jim, let's put the focus back on you where it belongs. Why don't you tell us what is the next movie?
Oh, the next movie is the something that has just been released on Netflix to some big kind of splash. The Trial of Chicago 7. With lots of people in it. Look at that crew. Look at, who's the lead? Who gets lead billing? It's like 18 people.
Yeah, it's like you say, lots of people we know. I think Jim and I kind of made a late day game call, and I think it's the right call as we only a couple of days before the American election, given some of the heightened, downright scary rhetoric coming out of the American right. And I'm just putting it on them. This is not, out of the politicians, it's like, no, Trump yep. And all his fellow travelers. Given that, what's interesting though is that given what this last year, Black Lives Matter, COVID-19, that sense that the center will not hold, although I'm misusing it in this case, I think. But that sense of tension, that rubber band, that's only been pulling all like for the last 4 years, but a real kind of extra stretch in the last 7-8 months. That's going to get released one way or another. We might be doing one of these things, but that's going to be released. And I think there was a similar kind of sense. Again, globally, 1968 was a huge year. And what's interesting is that, the Chicago 7, we're happy because they did a protest at the Democratic National Convention in Chicago. So there's a lot of, it seemed right to us to pick this movie, something a lot more contemporary, which is always nice, helps our view count, but also it seemed apropos. And that will end our political thing. And we will have another interesting announcement next week for shows following. So stay tuned for that. There's
still Sunday night next week.
Yeah, Sunday night for the next month. And we'll, of course, you know what? We push out the usual thumbs and all the social media stuff. Some might notice I'm a lot busier on Twitter of late because I like seeing those numbers go up.
Yeah.
Anyway, if you're interested in the book, please link in the description to an affiliate, Amazon affiliate link in the description if you wanted to check out the book yourself. And that could be, the audiobook or the Kindle or the actual book with paper and everything. All right. I don't know, Jim, anything else we got to say, or is it that time to
I think it's that time.
Cue the outro?
Yeah, good one. I think it's that.
I've been in your world.